All right, hey, folks. So this is our fourth podcast here of the Work Modern podcast. I think the last one that we did got some really interesting feedback with regards to using AI for corporate learning, and I'm excited for a very relevant topic today, which has a lot to do with productivity gains at work. And obviously, Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, made a very public-facing comment that hit the news, I think, this week with regards to future layoffs at Amazon due to AI. And I love to sort of focus on that. So anyways, that's who I am again. And Grant, go ahead. Yep.
Hey, Justin. Yeah,
Yep.
great to be back with you. And yeah, it feels like everything that we've been talking about for the last 2 years, I guess, with AI at work is finally catching up with the workforce, right? We've been touting how it can make work easier, reduce the amount of work, and so now maybe we're starting to see the first big layoffs associated with that, and how optimization of work isn't just about optimizing an information worker's day or reducing their load, but it's about eliminating jobs in some cases. But it feels like a natural progression, just like with any other industry upheaval over the centuries, right? So it's not that jobs are being taken away, it's just they're going to be redistributed elsewhere and new industries will be created. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, man. It comes down to sort of like this age-old question in terms of when you have a massive technological innovation and you hand it to a worker, does the worker do two times the amount of stuff in the same amount of time, or do they bank it and use that time to go fishing, right? And then similarly, how does the CEO or the business owner, obviously they don't want their employees to go fishing with that
Mm-hmm.
with that time. How how does that business owner or leader, what are their expectations of when they buy a tool? I think frankly, like when you buy a tool, like you're planning to do more with it, not to work less. And I think
Yeah.
humans track record is to do more when given the tool. Like for the most part, we don't do less because we've been given this tool, right? Like when we invented the wheel, we didn't just suddenly like, now the wheel is here, let's do less work, right? We're like,
Right.
let's do more with it. Um, I think maybe there's some notable exceptions to that in different countries.
Yeah.
I won't name any, but for the most part, people want to do more when they've been given the opportunity to do more.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like this is four wheels and a V16 or a W16, whatever a
Yeah,
Bugatti has. And everyone wants to drive 200 miles an hour. Some people are kind of just, they're slowly accelerating, but everyone knows that this has such incredible potential. But yeah, some people are a little bit more wary than others. But it's interesting, every organization that I talk to, there's this wide range of acceptance of the tool and wariness of it, from like legal and security, and everyone's still kind of processing it. I speak to a lot of individual contributors, and a lot of them are still struggling with the basics of prompting. So as the tools evolve into these more specialized agents, I think that's a good thing. But but yeah, there is a lot of angst out there about jobs and process automation taking away jobs and stuff like that. So we see it every day with our customers.
yeah. I mean, I think the reality is if you have expertise at your fingertips, um, like truly niche expertise, right? I
Mhm.
find myself like I don't have to phone a friend as often, right? Within
Yeah.
my daily work, right? Because I'm able to get that expertise very quickly. Does that mean we don't need that expert that I used to have to refer to? I mean, potentially, right?
Yeah.
Does
I was getting ready for a conversation today with a paint company. They manufacture specialty paints, paints you might find in Home Depot, mass market paints, and I said like compare uh, sales trends of specialty versus mass market paints over the course of the last 5 years. And
yeah.
I know nothing about specialty paints, but I phoned a friend using the researcher agent, and within 10 minutes, I had a really detailed report about the effects of COVID and DIY on specialty versus mass market paints and how those macro trends affected it. And yeah, I mean, otherwise I would have had to hire a consultant or
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
some analyst research or something like that.
yeah.
I don't even know.
Well, you think about the role of the salesperson, right? And I think a salesperson in general, I don't care what it is that you're selling, a good salesperson is able to provide great expertise about their product.
Mhm.
And if you're able to use AI as a customer to reduce your reliance on the salesperson, does it really make sense to have as many salespeople for, let's say, um, simple products potentially? I say
Yeah,
you probably don't need, right? If
right.
you're buying software at scale, for instance, that they're commodity software, do you do
Hmm.
you truly need a salesperson to provide commodity software? Probably not.
Probably not. Nor do I
And I say
need
this as a
commodity.
salesperson of software, by the way, folks.
Yeah.
Like that does worry me. I mean, Andy Jassy, right? He said, I'll quote, right, as we roll out more generative AI and agents, it should change the way our work is done. We'll need fewer people doing some of the jobs that are being done today, and more people doing other types of jobs. Completely fair statement, by the way.
Hmm.
Um, I think that is true. I suspect 25 years, 30, maybe 40 years ago, the same was probably said about computers, right? About PCs. And maybe people said the same thing about electricity.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe people said the same thing about the steam engine. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Going back to our classic example of industrialized farming, like,
mm,
boy, the guy that's an expert with a shovel probably didn't want to see that John Deere tractor, but
exactly.
eventually probably bought one because obviously he's going to get to do a lot more work. But
It, a lot of this, so let's talk about instead of talking about the gloom, I like talking about like the positives, right?
yeah.
And if you're so like to the second part of his statement, which is really about um adaptation, right? That you know that that parts of the company and employees will really have to adapt, right? Other types of jobs, in other words. I think that those who adapt are going to thrive. But what does adaptation look like?
Mhm.
Um, and the phrase now is about like frontier companies. And these are companies that are leveraging AI in every aspect, and they're using like agentic AI to automate, not just
Mhm.
automate, but to also make decisions. So at an employee level, like I'll tell you that I personally, I haven't found an agentic solution that automates my life yet. Like I haven't.
Oh, wow.
I
Really?
mean, I mean, I mean, I don't think I've done. Like I don't wake up in the morning and like check my AI agent to see if it's solved something for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I use AI to summarize meetings,
Uh,
to prep me for meetings, to research. I role play with it. I do lots of things like that. But like pure automation for sales, like I
mm.
haven't seen agentic AI do that yet for me.
Yeah, I think you're right. There isn't like a button that you press and AI is gonna
Yeah.
do all that work for you. But in my experience, it saves me probably 50% or more of the time that I used to spend doing research. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
another researcher agent
Yeah.
prompt that I
Agreed.
use
Yeah.
almost every single day is help me prepare for this meeting. And
Hmm.
it creates a lengthy report about, hey, every single step since the dawn of time
Hmm.
interacting with this customer and the personalities involved on both sides and the meetings we've had prior to this point. And it gives me a great, like, I walk into this meeting ultimately prepared, whereas before I
Yeah.
was mining my Outlook, like,
Mm.
and I'm one of
True.
those people that doesn't delete emails. So
Oh,
it's truly
especially,
mining
well, you've been
things from like
validated.
years ago.
Now you should never delete an email
Yeah,
because
right. Why
the,
would I now?
yeah, it would make Copilot less effective if you do.
Right. Yeah.
So
I,
yeah.
it's funny. I have friends that literally every day delete every single email in their mailbox, and I'm like, how do you operate like that?
Well, that's
Like,
interesting. I've always been a believer of just selecting everything like I like having everything red.
uh,
I get like OCD anxiety if there's something unread.
mm,
I don't know. For some reason I can't handle that, but I will never delete emails. The
I can delete an email if I've addressed everything and I feel like it's completely going to be unuseful in the future. So that's obviously spam and
Yeah.
junk and meeting invitations that don't pertain to me. But if I can use it, I'm just piling and piling and piling. So
So
literally going back to 2014, I have,
Dude, this is going to the era of psychological profiling of Grant and Justin. We don't want to reveal too
yeah,
much to the internet. Um,
right.
heaven knows what people would find out. My other point though is like so this idea of like a white collar worker, intellectual worker using a flock of AI agents on his or her behalf. I think that like who is that first worker? Like what does that worker look like? And based off my research and based in the conversations with customers my sales teams have, it usually hinges on people in roles that are heavily process driven,
Hmm.
um, finance roles,
Yeah.
legal roles, HR roles.
PMO, ERP.
Yeah, people who I'm not saying that these people can be automated out of a job, but a lot of their current tasks can be automated. And so I think adaptation for them looks like this. Hey, um, now that 80% of what I used to spend my time with is now being automated with automated decision
Mm,
making, like I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think about how would I redefine my role? What else can I
mm,
do? What other decisions could like how do I think ahead for my business? On behalf of Acme Company, as a finance business analyst, what can I now be thinking about that I wasn't thinking about previously?
right, right.
And that to me, that's what adaptation looks like. It isn't just
Yeah,
using the tools because if congratulations, you just use the tools and now they're used doing 80% of your job and now we're going to fire you. Okay, because we don't need you anymore.
yeah,
So like what you should be doing is saying, hey, okay, I'm thinking 5 steps that I've now like you should go to your manager and your leadership and say, hey, I get it. 80% of my role can be leveraged by AI, but now I'm able to think, I don't know, redefine your role. So
yeah.
some and that's what one of my customers, and this is a public facing thing because they made public comments about it, Lifetime Products. They call this rebalancing, right? This is the vision, which is allows you to do higher purpose stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that goes back to the classic Jack Welch thing. Like
Mm,
if the rate of change outside the organization is greater than inside, then you're going to fail. And I
yeah.
feel like that's true at the organizational level, the department level,
Hmm.
even the individual level. So
Yeah.
AI helps, but to your point, if I'm not making a change after that help arrives, then what am I good for, right? I have to
Totally.
adapt. I
I
have to
mean,
become better.
I mean the are the fears of layoffs completely unfounded in any
No.
industry? No, they're not, right? but you know what? Any major technological change creates overlap, redundancy, and then there's adaptation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that um, if you a frontier individual is somebody who is getting ahead of it and proactively trying to redefine their role before somebody else redefines it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do that, you're at risk.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
No,
um
you're absolutely right. I was shocked yesterday when I met with a customer. I met with their PMO, and they were like, "You have to help us. We think an agentic workflow for our current process would
mm,
really change things." And
mm,
they walked me through what they're currently doing, and there's zero process. I was
mm,
like, "All right, so is there any automation here?"
mm,
And they said, "Yes. There's a notification that
mm,
populates this little bell icon. So when someone has a reminder for an overdue task, it goes to this little bell icon. That was the only automation, and it's like three different systems. And so these poor project managers have to like manually remember to do X, Y, and then Z, or maybe A in sequence, and then sometimes it's CBX, and they
oh my
got to
gosh.
do all these different things. So I said, yes, of course, AI can help, but it's going to take some investment to get you to that point. Actually, one of the agents that I created earlier, and I'll post the video up here
Mm,
for you to check out, but did exactly what they were looking for. Multiple systems. We use generative AI to compare and contrast various records and see if there's some kind of a deficiency, or to
mm,
compare it against what the
mm,
truth should
mm.
be or what
Oh, that's
success looks
interesting.
like. So yeah, there's just so much opportunity, but that transformation is going to be hard, just
The
like
uh
it's going to
the
be hard for individuals.
man, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to have an AI agent, like Justin's AI agent as a sales manager. I would love to have one, and I'd love to be able to tell it every morning, hey, I want you to reconcile report A versus report B. Tell me where there's a delta, and so because right now I spend a lot of my life doing that. I would
Yeah.
love to have, and you're like, hey, why can't I have that now? And usually comes down to data governance and security concerns or blockers,
Mhm.
and um, two, user perception of difficulty to create that, right?
Right. Right.
And um, yeah, so I think it comes down to those two things. I mean, so the reality is I know that there's data governance and security reasons why I can't do exactly the agent that I want.
Right.
But I am hopeful that we're going to get there. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing I think about too is the future of work in terms of um, being able to expertise at your fingertips, and what does that truly displace and not displace, because ultimately while you as a worker might have an expert that you can type in and request, it doesn't replace the need for somebody in the room.
Mhm.
um, and I like sometimes I worry that firms might over rotate, so to speak, and assume too much, right? Like you still need to have that in-person persuasive ability on a given topic.
Yes.
Um, it doesn't just because I can get the right answer on paints doesn't mean that I can convince like that may not convince Grant to buy the paint. Um, you still need an expert on a given specialty to convince somebody of something.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know.
Plus, it's got to bring out my eyes, and
Oh yeah, the eyes
that's
are
subjective, right? We've
highly
got to
subjective.
make sure that
The
it's all looking like something a
Yeah.
human would
Well,
be interested in.
gosh, I mean, this whole question about humans and whatnot is really interesting, right? So I was this triathlon coach I work with, talk to a lot. Great guy, Jeff Sakoff. He believes firmly that AI is not good for it will never replace human coaches. And I agree that it shouldn't replace a good human coach, because ultimately a human can provide judgment and pressure and hold people accountable and motivation, and can understand uh, emotional states and speak to that.
Right.
Whereas I don't think an AI ever could, because ultimately I know that that's a soulless computer talking to me, so I can disregard it. Like, I don't care as a human if the AI chatbot judges me to the same
Right.
level as I know if an actual human is talking to me,
Yes.
and passing some sort of uh, judgment upon me, right? And
Right. Right.
I
Yeah,
like,
I've had a lot of coaches in the past, and there really is no substitute for one, a good coach, and two, to your point, having a human coach with human expectations and your desire to I don't know. For me, I wanted to impress and please and
yeah, yeah.
make sure that coach that I delivered the performance that that coach was looking for. So there's definitely that human element that AI will not
Yeah.
replace anytime soon. Maybe AGI will change that, like, but we're
I
probably a
think,
decade or more away.
but even with AGI, it'll still require humans to transfer the idea that it has a soul to it,
Yeah.
like it has the same gravity as an actual person, and I don't know if we'll ever get there. Hope I personally hope we don't.
Yeah.
Um, and but to your point about coaching, right? So let's bring it back to the workplace a little bit. So as a manager, um, does AI make me more effective and make it easier for me to manage people? Yes, it does, right? Because now I'm able to spend more time doing one-on-ones, less time managing my inbox, less time asking for answers, so I can spend more time with my people, which is great. Um, so, I think, it enables me to potentially manage more people, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's
Yeah.
certainly the trend, right? You're seeing in the industry where, notable tech companies are going to like 1 to 10 ratios. I think
Mhm.
that's pretty common. But on the other hand, it's important, even though you can do like twice as much in the same amount of time, right? Like, how awesome would it be to enable people to have more one-on-one time with their people?
Oh yeah.
Versus like, hey, we just took all this water out of the cup. Let's fill it back in with a whole bunch more stuff, right? Like,
Right.
be very careful as you implement artificial intelligence how you bank those efficiency gains,
Yeah.
because
100%.
you could easily bank it with more bad stuff.
Yes, and that goes back to the innovation and the
Mhm.
change that this is going to bring about. How are you managing that change and innovating
Mhm.
and creating new systems and
Yeah.
processes to be
So,
better at whatever it is you do?
so Grant, you remember in our organization we had this whole initiative called Find Your Five, right?
Hmm.
Like, find five things to give. I forget what it was. Find five things that give you like time back during your day using AI,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The second part of that we never really talked about was, okay, now that, okay, the follow-up question should be, okay, now that you found your five, what are you doing with it? Right? Like that's
yeah,
actually the more important question. It's not find things to make your life more efficient. It's okay, like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, I've found my five, but honestly, I haven't really thought about it. Like, what are my five? Like, I think I rattled off to you a bunch
yeah,
of things that I do that have found me my 50,
yeah, you're
right?
50.
But
But
yeah,
you're an
that
exception, Grant. But like,
yeah.
even if you found, you, the listener, you're listening to this and you're watching this, and you're like, yeah, I use Copilot, I use ChatGPT, whatever, I use Claude every day. Um, I guess my question is for you to ponder introspectively. All right, now that you're using this, how are you working differently?
Hmm.
And is that adding value back to whatever business, employer, your own business, your own life? Or are you
Yeah.
just scrolling Facebook more often?
Right, right. Yeah, and I think that comes down to the person using AI. Like for
Mm,
me, I can absolutely say that
mm,
I have more time
yeah,
to try to stay on top of that inbox and to
yeah,
keep on like just
yeah. So
sorting it
good
out.
employees will
And
become better employees. So
yeah,
this reminds me of an old adage. Somebody told me once about going to West Point, which is like AI will make you more of what you already are.
yeah,
Okay,
that's true. I,
just like
wow.
yep. So if you're a good employee,
Yeah,
AI is going to make you a better one. If you're a great
right.
employee,
Yeah.
it's going to make you an even greater one. If you're a bad employee, it'll probably make you a worse employee.
I guess the same can be said for power and money too, right? So,
Exactly, exactly. So it could, and why is that? It's because it's a general purpose tool, right?
right. It just amplifies
It just, yeah,
what's
exactly.
within. Yeah.
So like a general purpose type of amplification, which is I think so. I don't know. West Point's the college I went to, right? It's very general. Like it impacts like your overall sort of mindset and skill set. I think is true, right? So
Mhm.
you have a tool or an experience that affects your broad swaths of who you are and what you do.
Mhm.
It's going to it's like a rising tide will lift all ships or sink all ships. So
Percent. Yeah.
yeah, deep
Yeah.
thoughts here. I feel like we went into the Confucius realm,
No,
which is
it's
I don't know.
I think it's good. It's because this is a philosophical kind of a turning point in time with AI and potentially AGI and
Yeah,
quantum and all these things are right around the corner. So philosophically, how is this going to
dude, it's so exciting.
change?
Like how awesome is this? Like this is the stuff that like 60 years ago, or 50 years ago, like my dad would read about in like an Isaac Asimov book, right? It was all, pie in the sky, but
Mhm.
but we're living it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
To take it back to like, okay, the here and now, if you're a worker and you're like, oh man, like this is frightening and scary, my only advice is, you know, def- define it for yourself, define it for your leadership before others define it for you, right?
Mm.
Like
Right.
you may not be using an agentic solution right now to automate large portions of your job, but I don't know everybody who's listening to this podcast what their work environment is, but be proactive. Go to your management and say, hey, look, we could probably use AI to do all this stuff that I'm currently doing. But but if we do that, that will then enable me to do A, B, and C differently and more. Like redefine the role before someone does it for you.
Yeah.
Because whether or not don't assume that your company will never use AI because that's an assumption you're going to lose.
Your
Um,
executive leadership is actively
yes,
examining every
or they will
aspect of the
soon. Like
business.
like
Yeah, the
they
the whole business is up for discussion here when it comes to AI.
take control
We're
of that
seeing it at our
conversation.
company. Other people are seeing it at their company. So yeah, it's crazy. But
Yeah.
you said something about coaching that's been kind of rattling around in my brain. I think that using that coaching metaphor and even translating that into business, like
Mm,
a good coach, totally agree, irreplaceable. I think back to my college coach, and he was a great like technical coach and had great race plans and strategies, and had this like philosophical way of approaching a race and training. And we tried all kinds of different techniques to make us faster. And
yeah.
I think AI would have really helped him in that, it would amplify those powers, and he could hand off maybe the assistant coach stuff,
Mm,
like the technical things, to an AI. Like, hey,
yeah.
just ask the AI, what's the workout plan for today? Do
Yeah.
you have any
Like,
questions
hmm
about these sort of basic things, or do you have any questions about the race plan or the schedule, things
yeah.
like that? Just ask the AI. There's the plan. But I'm going to focus on this stuff
Totally.
that is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So,
My philosophy or my counterpoint to my man Jeff is like, look, I think it's going to be like great coaches in triathlon are probably going to use AI to help with the programming, right? To analyze the massive amount of data that this thing on my wrist and the power output on my bike, and like you'll be able to ingest and see things in the data faster than you probably would have been otherwise, and maybe it'll help create, because I think having the custom plan created by my coach is great, but like ultimately, if you use AI, maybe it'll create a even more nuanced program. Maybe it'll see something that you didn't see, right? And I think hopefully it'll enable you to like some questions I may go to him previously, like look, like I can go to this thing and ask it a basic sort of black and white question, and you and I can spend more time talking about mindset heading into a race, right? Like, and I value that more. If I ask AI, give me like some mindset about I should have for a race, like I'm sure it'll give me some great generic psychological advice, but I don't confer a lot of meaning to that, because I'm like, this is a computer telling me something. Like it doesn't resonate as much as it would if I heard it from a human who I respect.
That's right. And the same thing goes for sales. Like when you're talking to a salesperson, that they probably have experience with other customers and they've implemented it and they've sold it before. So you trust that experience. You trust that coach's life experience, racing experience, that they can confer to you to give you trust and confidence.
Yeah, because okay, so if an AI tells me, hey, this is the mindset you should have, and then mindset you should have, and then this human coach says the same thing, but I know the human coach has actually won races before, right?
Yeah.
I will give far more weighting to what the human coach, because no AI coach has ever won a freaking race, right? Because unless it's a robot that successfully won the race using that mindset, then no. I don't give it the same credence until I talk to a human who's actually won those races, or the sales manager. Like a sales manager who's hopefully won these deals. If he's like, hey, I've seen this work, that's more important than the AI sales agent that gives me a recommendation, because I put more emotional weight on that. Anyways, I think we've drained this topic, I suppose, but it's a topic that keeps coming up, and workforce is changing, man.
Sure is.
The frontier worker is one who I think is going to help define their future versus have it be defined for them.
The frontier organization, that's a buzzword that's been popping up a lot. Frontier, so hot frontier. It's very
hot. Dude, let me tell you though, the frontier does like let's talk about the frontier. Like the frontier Old West was not a great place.
You could die just waking up in the morning.
Dysentery, rattlesnake bites. I mean,
million ways to die in the West.
Yeah, but hopefully this frontier is going to be much more utopian. So
it is a perilous frontier, but like you said, you gotta stay ahead of the curve and
on the frontier,
innovate and
it's fun.
Stay out front of the rest of the wagons there.
It's all good. Well, Grant, I think this is a good episode. I think we covered a lot of hot topics. I wish everyone great luck through this period of tumult. Like I realize that some of our listeners may already have been laid off in different roles, and I know that it's not without empathy. It's tough, right, for anybody who goes through that. So hopefully this isn't going to happen to anybody that we know in the future. But if it does, right, like let's
there's never been a better time to apply for a job using these incredible tools, right? And that the other end is expecting that. So leverage the incredible tools that are out there at our disposal.
I love that.
To help you with that.
I love that. If you feel that like AI was a contributor to you losing your role, use AI to get a new role. That's the glass half full. All right, everybody.
Justin.
Grant, it's great talking, dude. Take care, man.
All right, you too.